guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do my May reading wrap up because I am a month behind because I suck at doing YouTube channel things. What's going on with this piece of hair right here? Does that look like it's two different colors? Is it just me or am I losing my mind? Anyway, let's talk about all of the books and movies, TV shows that I read in May. May was a very busy month, you see. May was when I wrapped up my final semester of college and when I started my final class of college, aka summer school. So went on a trip to Texas in May. May was a very, very busy month. So I didn't read a whole ton. I actually listened to 2 audiobooks and that was because there was a lot of driving. The first book that I finished in May was Gemina by Amie Kaufman and Amie Kaufman and J. Kristoff. This is the second book in the Illuminae files. This is a reread for me. I read this first initially right when it came out, but I've been doing a reread of the series in preparation for Obsidio. I listened to this one on audiobook this time, just like I had done with the first one. I just love these books so much and the audiobooks are just so incredible. Everything that I loved about the first audiobook, I also loved about this audiobook. There were so many fun sound effects and I loved all of the additions you wouldn't have gotten in a print form. They really took it to a different level. The cast that was working on this really made it their own. You could tell they had their own creative license with it and that they were able to do their own things and they had a lot of fun in creating an adaptation for this for the audiobooks and I had the best time listening to them. They really pay attention to the small details and it made the audiobook that much better. Initially liked Gemina slightly less than Illuminae, but upon listening to it again, would rate them more similarly. I will say that the main character in this book, Hannah, is an artist, so she has like a journal that she keeps. So there are a lot of journal entries in here. Let me find one. It's like a sketchbook type drawing. Obviously, this is a little hard to replicate for an audiobook, so just be warned. In this book, you're gonna miss out on all of these drawings, which are done by Marie Lou, if you don't have the physical copy. So maybe check it out, read along while you're listening. I would still highly recommend the audiobook, but you will miss out on things like that. And I end up giving Gemina a 5 out of 5 stars. Obviously. So the next book that I finished was Obsidio by Amie Kaufman and J. Kristoff. This is the book that I listened to on my way to and from Texas. So I had the audiobook in my ears and I had the physical book with me and I was reading along while I was listening and that was really my favorite way to enjoy the story. Like the other 2 books I had previously read and then listened to upon my reread. This one I did it at the same time and I loved it because I really got like all the voice actors and all the sound effects and everything in my head, as well as all of the really fun graphics and the plays on the text and all the different like journal entries and things like that, because there are some more drawings in this one. So if you have access to both the print version and the audiobook, I would recommend doing like a read along while you're listening because I thought it was the most enjoyable of the experiences. Being a conclusion, like in general, this was a fantastic conclusion. I loved how this wrapped up. The ending had me shooketh. Amie and Jay really like to play with your emotions and trick you into thinking one thing and then surprise you at the end with something else. And I like very nearly cried because they like shook my emotions so hard. And I loved meeting the new characters. I thought that Asha and Reese were such great additions to the crew, to the group. I really like the crew squad in this book. I'm trying to get my mom to read these, but she's like really apprehensive. But she needs to do it because they're just so much fun. I don't know why, but they just remind me so much of Star Wars and I love it. Obviously 5 out of 5 stars. This is one of my favorite completed trilogies that I've ever read. And the final book that I read this month was Shah and the End of Time by Roshni Chokshi. I really hope I said that correctly. This book had everything to make it my favorite. It is the first book from Rick Riordan's imprint. It is about Hindu mythology. We're following 12-year-old girls. It has all of these fun, quirky side characters. Like there's a talking pigeon that accompanies them on this quest. It feels so much like Rick Riordan, but it was not Rick Riordan. I struggled getting through this book a lot. There was just something about it that I wasn't connecting with. I had a very similar issue with this book as I did with the Kane Chronicles, by Rick Riordan. And I'm only comparing this to Rick Riordan because I feel like it is so closely tied to his books. The mythology was so foreign to me and I knew nothing about it because the King Chronicles is about Egyptian mythology, that it wasn't explained enough for me. Like, I found myself very confused and unsure of the importance or significance of these various gods, deities, mythical creatures. Even the author writes that there are so many different versions of Hindu myth and tales, but I just felt like I wasn't familiarized enough with the actual stories. It was also written in third person. Rick Riordan typically writes in first person, except when he did the Heroes of Olympus series, he wrote in third person. And I don't like that series as much as his other ones because I felt very disconnected from the story. I felt like his humor served first person narrative so much better. Felt the same way about this. I feel like if this would have been told in a first person narrative, it would have conveyed the sarcasm and the humor of Aru so much better because she is a snarky, sassy little preteen and I love her for it, but it wasn't conveyed very well because it was done in third person. I wanted to be in her head more than what it was. It wasn't multi-point of view either, so I didn't think it needed to be in third person. And take that one step further, I know this is published by Rick Riordan imprint, but I felt like it was also kind of a rip-off of Rick Riordan's writing style. It had a lot of the same humor, it had a lot of the same like jokes, a lot of the same like writing techniques as Rick Riordan's books were. It just felt too much like Rick's books. With that being said though, I enjoyed it somewhat and I am definitely going to check out the next book. Like, I really liked Aru and Minnie as the main characters and I'm really excited for what we're promised in future books. I gave Aru, Shah, and the End of Time a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now let's go ahead and talk about the TV shows that I watched in May. As I mentioned at the start of this video, May was an extremely busy month, so I don't think I actually watched any TV. TV is really fallen by the wayside for me. Like, I'm really struggling with this TV situation. Let's go ahead and jump right on into the movies I saw. I actually saw quite a few movies this month. I think I saw 3 in theaters. The first one, Avengers: Infinity War. Guys, this movie broke me in like all the best ways. I'm not gonna say too much about this. I did just do a 17-minute long review vlog style thing. I feel like I adequately discussed my feelings for it. I said adequately, really funny there. The long and the short of it is that I absolutely loved this. It broke me. I wanted to be shook by this movie. Like, really all I wanted to do was go enjoy myself and be shocked, and I have to say that I was. There were some things that I wasn't too impressed with or like happy with the reveals of. One of them being something involving the Infinity Stones. I talk about that more in my review as well. For the most part, I loved the characters. I loved seeing them all work together and seeing them all in the same space together because I just love huge crossover collaboration style type things. And so this was like the best thing I've ever witnessed with my 2 eyes ever. It's definitely my favorite movie of the year. I can't imagine any movie topping this. I can't wait to see what comes of the rest of the Infinity War storyline. I can't wait to see what Marvel does once they conclude the storyline. I can't wait to see what they do to rectify what happened at the end of this movie. I can't wait for Captain Marvel. Like, all around, I'm so freaking excited and I loved this. The next movie that I saw in May was Deadpool 2. I don't really know how to explain it. I enjoy Deadpool. I don't think it's like the best thing ever, but I think it's pretty funny. It's extremely meta. It's very self-aware and it just makes it a different experience from like any other movie you've ever seen because I've never seen a movie this self-aware. This one in particular, there was a ton pop culture references, a ton of Ryan Reynolds references, and I was laughing my head off at all of them. The main villain in this movie is the same guy that plays Thanos. He's had like a really good year so far. They were doing like some really funny Marvel jokes. There were some really funny like Canadian jokes because Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. There was a bunch of fun X-Men jokes. There was some funny references to Green Lantern. The storyline, again, not the best. Like, I don't think the storyline from the first one is super memorable, like, or in this movie. So I don't think you're really going to see Deadpool for a fleshed out, sensical plot. It was like a fun movie. I was entertained for 2.5 hours, however long it was. I left it in a good mood, but it wasn't like the best thing ever. And the final movie that I saw this month was Solo, a Star Wars story. I had to think of the title for a second there. This movie I loved. Han Solo is my favorite Star Wars character. He was my first crush as a child alongside John Smith from Pocahontas. It's just that winning hair. Loved this. I left it and I was on my phone Googling all the stuff trying to find how certain plot threads could be explored upon in future movies, how it ties into past movies, who certain characters might evolve to become, how it interweaves with the TV series. Like, I've never been interested in watching Rebels or Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars, which are the two animated series about Star Wars, but after watching this, I was like, I need to watch Rebels and Clone Wars because I just need to. It was so weird because it was like this mashup of all of these very famous people from very different franchises all in one place. A young Han Solo in love with Daenerys teams up with Haymitch all to run a scam and steal money from Vision. I feel like this movie didn't do very well. They marketed the shiznit out of Rogue One. Rogue One stuff was everywhere. Like, we knew it was coming. We were ready for it as a population. Whereas this movie Solo, I feel like was incredibly poorly marketed. There were no trailers for it anywhere, not on YouTube or TV. I didn't see any merchandise, any movie posters. There was nothing to promo this movie. I wouldn't have even known this movie was coming out in May had it not been for the trailers that were before other movies that I was seeing earlier in the year. It makes me hopeful that we will eventually have a Princess Leia movie and an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi is super integral in the Clone Wars TV show. So I feel like he's had a lot of storyline already, but I want him to have a return to the big screen. And then Princess Leia, that is long overdue. Han Solo was incredible. Like, his mannerisms were on point. I wonder how many hours he spent studying Harrison Ford to nail down those impersonations because he was incredible and I thought he was the perfect Han Solo. I loved him. So that is it. Those are all the movies, TV shows, and books that I consumed in the month of May. I would love to know what you guys have been watching and consuming lately. Please tell me in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!